Hey everybody. I was asked recently to share a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey to build a modality that was not there before and to put it out into the mainstream in some pretty radical ways. So I thought I would share with you a little bit about what went into me really getting neurosculpting out there in the early days. So we're talking 2007, 2008. This is around the time that I knew I was supposed to bring this modality out to the world. It was before I had a name for it. And I knew that I needed to hustle big time because I was pitching something that was never used before to audiences that were not open to that kind of alternative approach to stress management. And I had a very large mountain in front of me. What I had going for me was unshakable faith in the authentic experience of the tool, the modality itself. And I had a vision and I had a mission. And my mission was and is to help change the world one mind at a time, getting people to understand how to regulate so they can move beyond their limiting stories. Those stories could be anything from trauma stories, generational stories, systemic stories, cultural stories, ethnic stories, you name it. We have inside of us all of these stories that affect and drive our behavior. And to have agency around those stories is really my mission on this planet. So I started with the most unlikely audiences. I started with police departments. Because at that time in 2007, I knew in my bones that police, with their fingers on the triggers of loaded guns, needed more than anything a capacity to emotionally regulate and to inhibit impulsive behavior and move towards responsive behavior. This was a very strong mission for me, and now more than ever, it seems very pertinent. But what I wanted to share with you was what it took to get into an agency. So I'm going to actually share with you my black book. This book was my everything. I didn't, at the time, have a smartphone. I don't even know if they had smartphones then. Everything was paper and pencil for me, and I was meticulous. On every page of this book is a different police agency. So here, you can see it there. Every page, different police agency. And it goes on and on and on and on. So what I did was I sat down and I listed every single police agency in Colorado. And I researched everything about that agency. And then I picked up the phone and I made cold calls. And I want to share with you as an entrepreneur what it took to get my foot in the door, what it took to gain credibility in an industry, and what it took to become a go-to consultant for police agencies across the country. Okay, so I'm going to share with you just the first page. Okay, that is a police department in Colorado. Every line on that page is a phone call, a cold call I made to them. So this particular police department, I started calling in January of 2008. I made 16 phone calls between 2008 and 2010 before I got a yes. Which means I was calling 8 times a year, which means I was calling 2 times a quarter. regardless of whether they said yes, no, or didn't answer me. I was calling them every other month for 2 years before they said yes. And that's just the first page. There you go. I have countless pages cataloging every phone call, every person I either left a message with or spoke to, any conversation I had, the outcome of that conversation, and what my next steps needed to be, and when I needed to call them again. And I knew that there would be some agencies where I may have to call for 3 years straight before they said yes to me. And those are all in this book. And so all of these agencies, I'm going to show you the amount of the section of this book. This entire section, every page, is an agency with anywhere between 10 and 25 calls. How many of these agencies did I get into? 6. I got into 6 agencies during that 3-year window. As an entrepreneur, I feel like the thing that got me to do all that was that I knew my purpose, I knew my why, and the tools, the services I was providing were not theoretical. They had extreme meaning to me. So it was very easy for me to play the long game. And I would say to entrepreneurs, if you don't know your why, if you don't know your mission, if you don't know your purpose, playing the long game is going to blow you out of the water. If I couldn't anchor into that, could I have called over 100 agencies consistently every month for years? The answer is definitely no. I definitely could not have done that. What came from that was getting into agencies, getting a reputation, being a trusted source of very alternative practices for agencies who were willing to address the horrible consequences of unmitigated stress in order to be somewhat proactive in kind of what we're seeing today, the systemic maladaptation of what was supposed to be a peace force, which is now a police force, and the use of force. So I wanted to share with you as an entrepreneur that your road is sometimes a mountain, and if you believe in what you're doing, you will scale that mountain. And it may not be as fast as all of the entrepreneurial motivational speakers that you see out there say it should be. You're not going to make a 6-figure income in 2 months, although some of you might. But if you don't, you have to be able to reach down and rely on something. And that something for me was unshakable faith, because the product and service I was selling was not me selling anything. It was me sharing what worked for me, because I had intimate knowledge of the modality inside out, because I was a user of that product and service. And I feel like that's what helped me get through. So I just wanted to share this with you, one, on an entrepreneurial perspective and platform, but 2, on maybe a bit of an inspirational platform to say this. Whatever your cause or your mission is in the world right now is an inflamed time in our history. And right now, if you have the mission inside of you, you are being called to action. That action can look very different for a lot of people. For some people, that action is being a voice. For other people, that action is being a doer who doesn't really voice but does. And then for others, it's being both, a doer who voices about it. And for others, it's being a supporter and a stable framework for others. Everyone has their own way into what they're supposed to be doing in the world right now. And it requires you staying the course, no matter what it is. You have to stay the course. That's how I stayed the course. I had my little black book. I had my own cheering section inside of my head that I had to rely on a lot. And I had a lot of downs, a lot of downs. I had more rejection. There's more rejection in this book than there is acceptance. There's more rejection that came at the cost of years of my energy. And I still did not let that stop me. So I thought I would share something a little bit non-neurosculpting, but a little bit entrepreneurial with you. It's not a fast thing for some of us, and it requires a lot of energy and a lot of vision and mission. So get clear on your mission. Do not let the world around you push you out of that mission into their agenda. You have to be in your mission to serve to the best of your capacity. If you start adopting someone else's agenda, the energy that it takes to then maintain your business becomes very, very challenging because you don't know where to ground into. So sense of self is critical. For me, it was critical. That doesn't mean I knew what I was doing or how to do it. And I had no money to do it. And I had no best practices to rely on. I had no mentor, no coach. And maybe it went slower because of those things, but it went exactly where it needed to go. So hopefully your service, your mission in the world, your product, your business goes where it needs to go. And for me, this book, something I can hold in my hand, something I could flip through the pages, something I could look at my history on one page of starting phone calls in 2008 and getting contracts in 2011 based on the 20 calls, 30 calls I made to that agency. This keeps me going a lot of times. So maybe that was helpful. And I look forward to talking to you again at another time, maybe about some more of the way the work has unfolded for me, or the entrepreneurial adventure, or about some neurosculpting, how to move you through all of these adventures. Take care, everybody.